CNN Sam Kalia's more now on Ukrainian forces battling to retake territory east of Kyiv.
Russian armor smashed in a Ukrainian assault east of the capital. Ukraine now claims to have blocked Russia's offensive against Kyiv. He said, "We've been engaged in a counterattack to recapture Lukyanovka. The operation has been a complete success. We decisively repelled the enemy. At times, it's been a ferocious infantry fight, and it's taken several weeks." Ukraine has also relied heavily on modern drones, here ambushing Russians from the air. Tank crews are sent running for cover. Ukraine has claimed that badly led Russian forces do have more manpower, but that they are reeling under unexpected attacks and lack of supplies. What they say may be true, according to Zina Kilko, who's tending to her wounded husband in the nearby Brovary hospital. Her village was overrun by Russians, and she described dealing with Russian soldiers who were hungry, cold, and out of control. She said, "They wore my woman's hat, my coat, my boots. They wore our clothes. They took our bedding. I don't know what they've done with it. They slept, they ate, they wandered about. They stole our money." A Russian soldier, whom she said was drunk, blasted her husband's leg off with a stolen shotgun. "So then we were 2 days in the basement," she said. "We started stopping the blood flow and giving first aid. We'd got 2 medics. I'm a midwife, and there was a nurse with us." She said that 2 Russian officers later admitted that they didn't support Putin's invasion, and others helped her evacuate her husband Vasil to Ukrainian lines. Maxim, a professional Ukrainian soldier, was shot in the shin during a firefight a few miles from the hospital. He shares Zina's contempt for Russian forces. "Their commanders are sending their soldiers to the slaughter," he said. "These bastards, they're just sent to their deaths. The officers don't pity them. They don't even count their losses. Civilians here do." Andrei Mulya arrived at the hospital when we were there. He'd been helping his brother Dmitro, a beekeeper, attend his hives when Russian shells fell among them 3 hours earlier. Mortally wounded, Dmitro was dead on arrival. He leaves a wife and 3 kids. He said, "These aren't people, they aren't even animals. I don't know what to call them." Sam Kiley, CNN, Brovary.
Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin has accused Western nations of trying to cancel Russian culture. In a televised meeting with cultural figures, Mr. Putin complained that Russian cultural events around the world have been cancelled in recent weeks, and he called such actions Nazi-like.
The proverbial cancel culture has turned into a cancelled culture. Tchaikovsky, Shostakovich and Rachmaninoff are excluded from posters. Russian writers and their books are banned. The last time such a massive campaign to destroy unfavourable literature was carried out was by the Nazis in Germany, almost 90 years ago.
Mr. Putin also compared the treatment of Russian culture to the backlash against Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling over her opinions on transgender issues.
Children's book writer J.K. Rowling was recently cancelled because she, the author of books that spread far and wide in hundreds of millions of copies, did not please the fans of the so-called gender freedoms. Today they are trying to cancel a whole 1,000-year-old country, our people. I am talking about the increasing discrimination of everything related to Russia, about this trend which is unfolding in a number of Western states.
Well, for her part, Rowling pushed back against being brought into the discussion, tweeting, quote, "Critiques of Western cancer culture are possibly not best made by those currently slaughtering civilians for the crime of resistance or who jail and poison their critics." We're now to a major shift in Russia's stated goals for its war on Ukraine. A top Russian general claims that the first stage of the invasion is complete and that efforts will now focus on eastern Ukraine. Journalist Atiga Schubert is following this and joins us now from Valencia, Spain. Good to have you with us, Atiga. So what do we put this down to, this change in narrative that we're seeing from Russia?
Well, it is definitely a significant public messaging shift, and it's delivered by Colonel General Sergei Rudskoy, who is the first deputy chief of the Russian General Staff. So it's a significant voice. And by saying that the main goal is the liberation of Donbass, those were his words, this is the disputed eastern Ukraine region that has been partially controlled by Russian-backed separatists now for years, since 2014. And he's also signaling that this has been a military success. Now, that's very different from what we've heard before, certainly from Russian President Vladimir Putin. He previously has said that Ukraine shouldn't exist at all as a state and should be demilitarized and, in his words, denazified. Now, it's unclear what he means by that, but presumably it would have meant some form of regime change, which has not been affected by Russia at all. It's failed to capture any major cities, least of all the capital of Kiev, where Russian troops have been beaten back recently. And it's hard to call this a military success in any way, especially when, by Russians' own admission yesterday, more than 1,300 military personnel have died in this war so far. Now, Ukrainian officials put that number much, much higher, and NATO and U.S. defense officials believe that at least 7,000 Russian troops have been killed, including several high-ranking commanding officers. So why then do we see this kind of messaging of changing the goals and painting this as a successful military operation? I think this could be a possible way to find a face-saving, tenable position at the negotiating table. Remember that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly said the only way forward, the only way to resolve this is direct talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. So what we could see now is the Russian military signaling that it's changing its goals, changing the narrative in order to walk it back to the negotiating table. That doesn't mean that we're going to see less fighting on the ground. In fact, we could see an intensification, certainly around those disputed areas like Mariupol, which is right in the Donetsk. Linda?
Hopefully it does lead to some negotiating. Atika Schubert for us. Good to have you with us. Thank you.